Tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvishavahaihi. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
So, what we are trying to understand is what in the fifth verse, the way it describes about what the nature of awareness, it says that it is very near and it is very far, it is inside, it is outside, it is something which is pervading everything, yeah, and this awareness is something which can be totally known. Yeah? If we are talking about, sorry. Yeah, please.
About awareness.
Yes.
Like it's Ishvara is manifest and unmanifest. So, so awareness is pervading to everything in the world.
Yes.
And it is also pervading outside. I don't know why I'm thinking suddenly like that. Nothing like that. You know, I mean, besides the world, it also exists. Can be something.
Yeah. So that's a good question. It's a good question. See, what Rashna is asking is that when we say that the world is nothing but intelligence, yeah, there is one thing which is very important to recognize, that intelligence is organized in a way that within which forms come into being, forms are sustained and forms disappear. So that means if you are generally, we have the understanding that the intelligence or order means what? Everything should only be coming into being. Death is seen as outside the order. Generally, death, anything unpleasant, we think is what? Outside the order. Order is, in our understanding, is what? Something only what we think is positive. What we need to understand is, when we mean the order, we mean what? The cause and effect relationship. And in that presence of the cause and effect relationship, the design is such that every form comes into being within time. Every form has a certain programmed time, and then what? That form disappears. So destruction is not outside the order. Destruction is what? Part of the order. This is why, this is a little bit cultural, so I don't want to give it a lot of emphasis, but you must understand that how to understand these difficult ideas, we have created concrete certain ideas which enables us to understand these ideas which seem like too big. To break it down, to make it available for a normal human being. So what we have done is, this is a whole Vedic culture. The most sophisticated abstract thoughts, not abstract but very subtle thoughts, and then those very thoughts are given simple forms to make it comprehensible. So that means that same intelligence, when you look at the way it is manifesting right now, yeah, the moment that is right now existent was not existing what? Few minutes ago. By the time I finish the sentence, the same moment where I started the sentence is gone. So that means there is a constant what? Change. This is part of the design. The forms have to give up themselves, yeah, while they are existing. They are minutely changing all the time until those changes become visible to you. So that means there is a constant change. Change means, what does the change mean? Something is coming into being, something is going. That is the definition of change. New moments are coming, the old moments are going. That is what we call change. So that means that the same intelligence brings into manifestation things. The same intelligence also what? Causes that going. And that is also programmed in a way that a human body means an average, the highest that you can enjoy is what? About 90 or 100. Yeah? And a dog, no matter how healthy the dog is, it can be what? 50, 70. That is what we call the design. The design means it acts in a predictable manner. But predictable manner doesn't mean that it is fixed. Because Surya just told me that the human beings in Victorian age, you know what was the average age?
Very young, like 40s and 50s. Yeah, very young.
30,
30, 40.
35, 40 years.
Yeah.
That was a full age. So that means the more we understand the world and the more we have medicines, we have knowledge, and we can use that knowledge to what? Prolong the life. And as a result of our knowledge, what we have managed to do so far is what? To increase the age from what? 35 to almost an average of 80.
80.
90. Nowadays 90. But 90 at the time people become 90.
Average.
Average is much less. But 70s. But still, you know, and even after 90 there is so much decline. It's not easy also. But what happens is, so please don't think of the universe as something which is fixed. So you can intervene in a way to bring about changes. Yeah, and you make, I just recently read an article that the technology will move in a way that we will be able to increase what our
age
lifespan to almost 150 years.
Wow.
And not in so far away future. So that means there are technological advances, and that is, nothing is fixed in this universe. So that means there are possibilities, and the minute you collapse those possibilities, the world is going to respond differently, and this is how everything keeps moving. But the fact is, whether your body survives for 30 years, or 80 years, or 150 years, the cells that exist in the body, they will only survive for what? They will keep on regenerating themselves. So that means every 12 years, the cells that you are born with are what? Gradually. So that is what we call, every second there is a new form which is coming into being. That creative power of the intelligence, we have given it a name so we can relate to it. What is the name we have given? Brahma. So therefore, because otherwise that there is this intelligence and it has creative power and that is bringing into manifestation every second new form, it all seems like what? Sometimes too difficult, exactly, and too overwhelming. But if you give the name to that creative power which is constantly at work, then what happens? It's much easy to kind of relate. So the whole Vedic culture is actually making this whole amazing vision relatable.
So Brahma is the God.
So Brahma is the intelligence seen from, not Brahman, Brahma. Brahma is the intelligence seen from the standpoint of its what? Creative power. Every second a new thing is created. Then you have, at every second, some forms are what?
Destroyed.
Destroyed. That also belongs to the intelligence. So you call that intelligence from the standpoint of destructive power, the power to transform into something else, is called what? Shiva. So you give it a name. It's the same intelligence seen from different what functions and different aspects. So that is called Shiva. What is interesting is we are generally the destruction.
Not
the
change,
power-
destruction.
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 Now, generally, when we think about destruction, we think, what is our relationship with destruction?
Not very good.
Not very good. We have almost a fear of destruction. It evokes something which is uncomfortable in us.
But is this no? Because it takes engaged.
Excellent. So that means one has to change one's relationship with that power of destruction. One doesn't have to see it as something which is, to be scared of, to be something which has to be avoided. You have to embrace it all. So that means, exactly as Roberto said, only when that moment is gone, it will give way for what?
Another.
Another moment. If you didn't have destruction, look
You
at
won't
this. Your disease, when it comes, it will not
Go.
You don't have to be afraid. It is a blessing. The power of destruction is a blessing because it will give way to a new form. So that means you are changing the way you are relating to the universe. We are so many people are so afraid of changes.
Yeah.
You want to what? Just keep everything exactly as you have.
Yeah.
So that means most of the time that is the case. You don't learn. And what is the nature of the intelligence? It will create a moment and it will
Make you change them.
absolutely. So that means if you don't learn to move with the universe, what happens is you are stuck. And when you are stuck, then you are dissatisfied. And then you are not able to flow with the universe.
That alignment is required.
It's required. Your relationships with things have to be healthy. And not only you're seeing it as an essential part of the reality, but you're also saying that it's necessary. I want that change. Imagine if I tell you that this moment is frozen. You'll never be able to change anything. How would you feel?
Stifled, yeah.
Stifled. For rest of the life, this is going to be the moment.
And if it's a bad moment, we've had it.
Imagine. So that means that your relationship with the changes have to be gracious. Only because you understand that what the change is very much part of that intelligence. It gives way for new things to come. And to that, not only you don't have to be afraid, but you can pray. What is that prayer to Lord Shiva? Tell me. What would you pray actively to give up?
I'm sorry, to give up.
Because you want to get rid of. You're invoking the power of destruction in the universe to what? Destroy something.
And to create something new. So that's what you
Create
pray for
something new.
another
Exactly.
opportunity.
Absolutely. Not only you pray for the
Yeah.
other opportunity, but you also
Also what?
can pray to that power of destruction for what? Destroying your confusion. Destroying your ignorance. Destroying your wrong perspectives. So that means, because you're invoking that power, you're relating to that power, and you're asking for help. This is how we begin to align with different aspects of that intelligence. Otherwise, what happens is, the intelligence only remains as a concept. You don't know how to relate to intelligence in your day-to-day living and how to align with that intelligence. So that now you begin to enter in relationship with what? That intelligence. Every time something is coming into being, it's a blessing, it's a work of intelligence. Every time something is being destroyed, it is work of intelligence. But not only you recognize as work of intelligence, you use it in your life to help yourself. That is a lovely way of living. So that means you are asking for help to remove your ignorance. This is why our teacher used to say, ultimately you need grace. You can't get this knowledge. It's not easy to get this knowledge.
Also, many years back, the way they have written still is the same. The meaning is
It's the same. Then, in between that coming into being and constant destruction, imagine if Surya is saying our eyes were designed differently to see all the minute changes at every level that are taking place in this room. What will happen?
confused.
You will be so confused because when I see Rashna, I'll be seeing all these different hundreds of cells all moving around and doing things, some of it disappearing, some of it coming, and then same thing with Faye, and then the body here also, this is all just small atoms and mostly space and just going like that, and the whole galaxy is moving and we will be so confused. The intelligence also gives us what the eyes are designed in a way that in the seemingly changing, in a constant flux, you have what? The seeming stability. That stability enables us to what? Interact with the universe. If we did not have that, it will be impossible to interact with anything. So the aspect of intelligence where while things are in a constant flux, it gives what the seeming stability is what we call vision. Vision. So that means we give names. We give different names to that intelligence. It's not here, but I'm just explaining the work of that intelligence. Yeah. So how do you relate to this intelligence? That is answer to Rashna's question. So that means this intelligence is constantly manifesting things, it is constantly destroying things, and there is what? Kind of a constant as though sustenance. This is while the manifest universe is going on. Yeah? But in fact, this fact that there is manifest and unmanifest, there's so many cycles of manifestation and unmanifestation within the universe. It is also then true for what? In fact, it is true for the, it can help us to answer this question. Before this universe, what was there?
Oh yes, the awareness.
What was there before this whole universe? Before the time came, before the space came, before the object universe came, what was there? Because if you really, in fact, if the physicist, if you ask, they have no idea. Obviously, because why they have no idea? Because the whole of science is based on what? Observation. It's data and data-based what? Inference. So that means who has knowledge? Something before the creation is not possible. It's not. You can't. Your mind cannot reach. But they are very clever. You can use your logic and you can ask yourself, can something come from nothing?
Something?
Can something come from nothing?
Yes.
No. Something can never come from nothing. So that means what? That's why they have what this. Yesterday, if you see what they showed, that
Not
single point, and what was the Big Bang? That expanding as many. So that means they logically understand that, but they don't know what it is, but they know that something cannot come from nothing.
In fact, they call it singularity.
They call it singularity.
Because they don't know.
They don't know.
They don't know a point which has infinite energy and which can expand. Well, there is no time and space yet. So where is a point where there is no time and space, and from which time and space will come? So they are unable to understand what it is. You understand that?
singularity also means that one.
Yeah, exactly.
That,
Right.
Absolutely. So therefore, how close Vedanta is to physics is
yeah.
incredible. So therefore, what we say is that there was what, the only thing that was there is what, intelligence. But in what form? Unmanifest form. That unmanifest form, what is what we call creation? That same intelligence which then manifested as what? The whole universe. So that means there was that intelligence. Ishvara was there, but in what form? Unmanifest. Unmanifest. Unmanifest means time had not yet come, has come into manifestation. Space had not come into manifestation. The objects had not come into manifestation, but there was this intelligence which had the potential to what? Become many. So that means this intelligence precedes what? The universe. The cause always has to precede what? The effect. If the universe is an effect, and we are talking about the cause of the universe, then it has to precede what? The effect. It has to precede the universe. So, if we postulate and if we say that intelligence was there before the manifestation of the universe, and if it was only there before the universe, and now if it is not there, it would become a belief. But if the same intelligence is here and now, in every form you can see that intelligence, and in every form you can also see what? The cycles of manifestation and unmanifestation. Then what you can understand is, this manifest, unmanifest is a cycle. It's cycle not only what? Before the creation, right now when the creation is going on, there is a constant what? Manifest and unmanifest. And what is intelligence doing? It is bringing about that manifestation, it is sustaining it, and it is also making it unmanifest. It is a link which makes the whole show possible. So that means whatever was before is also now. That's why it is knowledge. If it was only before and if it is not now, it will become what? A belief. Right now, when the universe has become manifest, you see the same thing. The intelligence which has the capacity to what? Manifest and unmanifest. Manifest and unmanifest. And within that manifest and unmanifest, a seeming what? Stability. So therefore, this, the knowledge of Ishvara, which then actually puts everything which is unanswered together. And just as a small side note, I will give you a kind of a, so that one needs to understand that the place of Vedanta, because a layman, when a layman listens to Vedanta, and rightfully so, it is very important, they want to ensure that what Vedanta says is not against science. That's because science is very rigorous. Why they want to make it kind of conform to science? Why? Because science is rigorous. They don't just make loose statements. Years and years and years of understanding and evidence when you have, only then. So that's why it enjoys some credibility. Now, what is the relationship of a scientist with Vedanta? Just to give you one example. So, just an anecdote. This anecdote doesn't really prove anything, but just to give you an insight into the relationship between science and Vedanta. There was this person, Neeru was there, and we had a retreat in Kodaikanal, and there came one American guy called Dustin, and he was, then came one American, and he was doing PhD in physics. And when he was coming to India for the first time, so his IQ was like extremely high, very bright boy. And he told us that he has come on a scholarship to study what our retreat. So I said, who gave you a scholarship to come to our retreat? So he said that I presented a paper. He was studying at University of Michigan, so that's a good university. So he says, I presented a paper to a committee of faculty, and they thought that this was a good proposal, so they gave me a scholarship. So I said, what is it that you wrote in that paper? What was the presentation that kind of made them give you the scholarship to study Vedanta? So he said that he was very much looking into science, and what he also saw that after, let's say, Einstein and all, there has not been some major earth-shaking discovery in the field of science. So they are progressing, they are making things, but nothing is just so fundamentally different. It's just kind of progressing slowly. So he was looking for, that bigger paradigm shift, and he started reading, some of these very well-known physicists. One of which was Einstein, then the other one is Schrödinger. So these are all these,
Pauli,
so
Heisenberg, all these physicists were
physicists.
also, to some extent, they were also looking at the implication of these new findings of physics.
So he read one article by Schrödinger, and in that article, Schrödinger said that, if you go only by physics, it's very difficult to come to know something which is let's say the truth or the meaning of the universe or something like that. So he said, you need to look into philosophies, because that is not the domain of physics. So he said, so that means we have to look into philosophies. Then he said that he started examining this Schrödinger. He's a mainstream physicist. He was a contemporary of Einstein. Then he said, okay, let's look at the philosophy and let's see what kind of insights they give about the truth of the universe. And being the very smart person that he was, he analyzed each of these philosophies and he was able to see what logical fallacies. Right? Logical fallacies is, this doesn't hold with this, that doesn't hold with this. And he concluded his paper by saying, the only philosophy which is irrefutable is Vedanta. It's not refutable. So therefore, this Dustin, in his proposal, he said that if Schrödinger thinks that this is an irrefutable philosophy, let me investigate. Let me investigate and let me see what I can find out. So that is how, and that proposal was approved. So this is why he came on a scholarship. What was very interesting is, he being a very smart person, he realized one thing. He realized that the whole science is based on what? Observation, data collection, and then based on that collection of data, what you make inferences, and they are very sophisticated inferences. So you come to know many, many things in the universe. He says, what Vedanta is talking about with this awareness is it an object in the universe? It's not an object. It is what? The subject. That's what we said. In fact, the very nature of confusion that we have is what? Something which is
An object.
exactly. Something which is an object, we take it as a subject. And in the process of doing that, we forget about the real nature of the subject. So therefore, the Vedanta operates at that level of what? Resolving that confusion. He says that means that the nature of I, by definition, cannot be what? If I make I into an object, then it will become just one object in the universe. So therefore, the normal method of science has no access to what? The nature of I. And by doing that, you will never get there. Then, being the smart person that he was, he said, but within science, there is, in the methodology of science, there is one thing which is available. What they do, most of the discoveries are what? Testing hypothesis. So that means you create a hypothesis and then what? You collect the data and then you see whether this hypothesis is right or it doesn't hold. And if it doesn't hold, then what? You have to drop that hypothesis. He says even that hypothesis is tested through what? Data collection. The data collection method will not work here. Then he says there is another method in science which is what we call, you take axiom. What is axiom? Axiom is you take one thing as a truth. You take that thing as a truth and you work backwards. When you work backwards, if it is a truth, then everything has to what? Fall in place. If it was not the truth, what will happen? Somewhere along the line, the logical thing is going to be destroyed. So logically it will not hold. And this is exactly what Surya was talking about yesterday about theory of everything. There has to be something which what? Because we observe the universe and we look at the cosmos and then we have quantum physics and we have atoms and particles, and there is no unifying theory in which everything will fall in its own place. So they are looking for that knowing which everything will what? Fall in place. So he says he wanted to use Vedanta, that if you work as this consciousness being the reality and you work backwards, then what will happen? If it was the truth, what will happen? All the unanswered questions, all the things that we don't know, they will all what? Fall in place. So that means this is really the level of Vedanta. So therefore, one has to know that when you are exposing yourself to Vedanta, it's not just some random kind of a thing of a universe, some idea of the universe which is totally untested, which is totally what against any logic or reasoning. It is one of the most profound. Even as physicists, when they listen, we may think that a physicist knows a lot more. A physicist listens to a proper teacher of Vedanta, they will be in awe.
And when this knowledge was written, how many years back?
This is like some, I don't know, we actually don't put...
But approximately.
No, what we say is that there was an oral tradition. And then Vyasa was the one who codified and he made 4 Vedas. But even before him, it was
But it's such a great thing to know that after 500 years, 1,000 years, the person was thinking in the same direction, everything is true.
Yeah.
I guess knowledge doesn't have a beginning.
So, exactly.
5,000 years, you say?
5,000 and even more.
Certainly 5,000. Right, Surya?
Yeah, more could be. The history, these scholars and so on, these Western scholars, they take only by their method where it was codified by writing. So this is where you have proof and evidence. Because how do you then substantiate this oral tradition? And they say 1,500 BC, 2,000 maximum. But we say at least 5,000 to 8,000 BC because in the civilization, in the Saraswati civilization, all these amazing sites, now they have been traced back to 8,000 BC. So we say, now, this is archaeology, it's not my thing, and it's not the tradition.
So,
It's a serious subject.
see, exactly. This spirituality is a serious subject. It's not some.
You need a brain to understand it.
Absolutely. It's a sophisticated subject.
And it's mentioned so many other scriptures also about this particular scriptures of Hindu.
Yeah, exactly.
I went visited a lot of places in Italy, and they mentioned
Even Einstein and all, there was a great inspiration. They read the Bhagavad Gita and all. It's not, yeah.
Sri, why they don't teach this
What is inspiration?
in US university?
Yeah. Can we speak about this in satsang? It's a
What?
good question.
Why they don't teach? Because
Yeah.
my youngest son is a major from Wake Forest University in philosophy. And he did very well, actually. He's very sharp in negotiating things like this. So now he's in business, but he's doing very well with that. But he knows very superficially with that, very superficially. And he's very in depth in a very pragmatic, because in Europe, you study philosophy, all the old, Greek, in America, you study that too, but very fast, and then you study applied philosophy. That's why philosophy is they say it's one of the best major for business today. Because when he said, I'm going to study philosophy, I said, you're crazy, what are you going to do? Be a professor or something? Or if you want that, fine. And he said, no, it's for business.
You become a deeper thinker, really.
But he doesn't know enough about Vedanta because we've never been exposed to
Yeah.
questions. One in the
See,
West.
there are some Indology and some Eastern religion departments
Yeah.
at Harvard, everywhere in all these Ivy League.
Yeah.
But they will not have this approach. They will have a third-person approach, which will be historically how it has evolved, what is said, what are the different thinkers, what are the texts, and so on. But see, the way here it is delivered, it's a tradition which is meant not for acquiring some historical perspective.
No.
It is meant to change you.
Not
Make
making
you
the
grow.
perception.
You see? And this is one. And the second, it's only recently that people now have come to understand that Western philosophy, of course, they are great thinkers, but there are like great Chinese philosophers, there are great like Indian philosophers, Buddhist and Tibetan and whatever, and it's amazing. So we'll talk about this later during the satsang. But it's this view of the Western world that there is thinking and depth outside their own world is recent, really
Like in
recent.
medicine.
Yeah,
Same thing in medicine.
same. Yeah.
Acupuncture.
Exactly. Neuroscience also is huge.
But even I went to Florence also, there's some people that came from Greece.
Yeah,
And the Greeks came to India.
There was some exchange.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
So that means that the level of Vedanta is, it totally, it's a kind of it's a subtle level of inquiry. And it is all, the foundation is logics. That's why it attracts the physicist. Now, what the need to then do is that, see, otherwise what happens is, you just come to keep on knowing Ishvara as this great force, manifest, unmanifest, and it is constantly changing, it is a potential, then it manifests. But the purpose of Vedanta is not only that. The purpose is to solve the equation, what is my relationship with it? That is, you must recognize that. Because otherwise what will happen is, even if you see things like this, what will you conclude? You will conclude that there is this whole big Ishvara, but you still, who are you then? What is your relationship with this Ishvara? It will still remain what? A form relating to the whole. It still is within that paradigm. The ultimate aim of Vedanta is not to make you just see the beauty of the Ishvara and align and align and align, as I keep telling you. It is to see something more about that relationship. How will will you figure out the relationship unless you first know when you know about the entity Ishvara? The way we live our life, we don't even know about what the entity Ishvara, let alone to find out what is our ultimate relationship with Ishvara. That Ishvara figures nowhere. So in the teaching, you are moving from one step to the other. First, the teaching tells you, hey, there is an Ishvara, to which you are so intimately connected. There is this intelligence, and you are pervaded by that intelligence. Then, it makes you answer, is that all? Or there is something more? Then it says that every form which is pervaded by Ishvara, which is all intelligence, they both enjoy one non-changing reality. Both the form as well as what the Ishvara which governs all forms, they enjoy one non-changing reality. Where will you find this non-changing reality, which is the truth of both Ishvara and yourself? Where will you find it? Yes, if it pervades everything, but if it is not available to you as an object, what is the place where it is available to you? The only access that you have to this presence of awareness is because you are what? There is one presence which enables you to think about what everything else. The thoughts keep changing, but there is one unchanging thing, because of which the thought comes, the thought is connected, the previous thought is connected to the present thought, the present thought is connected to the future thought, all these different things, because there is one unchanging presence.
That's a key thing.
That's the key thing. If you make Vedanta into some Brahman who's somebody out there and you need to connect, you will never get Vedanta. The only reason that Vedanta is not a belief is because that awareness is something which is always with you. It is never not there. In spite of the fact that it is always with you, because of our orientation of giving more reality to the form, we miss it. We miss it all the time. So therefore, this you will have no access to awareness if it was not available to you. That's why we use your own experiences to what? Undo the mix-up. To make you see the proper relationships.
But if it's something that it doesn't change,
Yes.
so in a way it's been already existing.
It's always, exactly.
And so you mean that innate, which was our predecessor, had awareness.
Yes, so that means it's true. So that means anything that is there, so as I told you, that the minds keep evolving, even human mind keeps evolving, and maybe it will evolve even further, yeah? But the thing is, all those forms evolve and they are programmed by what? That Ishvara, the intelligence, which makes those possibilities happen. Yeah, so that means that there is not only this little intelligence of a chimpanzee, and that itself may evolve over a period of time, but it all operates within a much more fundamental intelligence which makes all these possibilities. It connects the past evolution to the present to make everything move in a certain way. Yeah. Now what we are saying is that awareness is not only the truth of what that chimpanzee intelligence, it is also the truth of what the basic intelligence within which all these changes are taking place. So that means that awareness is what? It is always present. Because you we are always looking at the form and the possibilities of that form, and those forms are how they are evolving. That's what we are looking at. So what Vedanta does is, it says that all these forms are evolving and they are changing, but they all happen within one intelligence, which then governs all these changes according to a certain patterns, not just randomly.
But within this,
And this awareness that is not only self-evident to you, it is also the truth of that fundamental awareness. This is why that awareness is always there. The non-changing awareness is not only the basis of my brain, but it is also what? The basis of Ishvara. Like the water is not only in wave, but it is also what? In the ocean. That's why. That's a very good question, because if that awareness was only confined to the forms, and if Ishvara was independent of it, then that awareness will become what? Just one thing that Ishvara created.
And something
And that was his question. Did Ishvara create this awareness? In fact, no. Ishvara created what? Time, space and objects. The truth of Ishvara is consciousness. So, consciousness is not an object. Consciousness is what? The subject, which is what? The subject of the form wave and the form ocean. It is the subject, which is the true nature of both Jiva and Ishvara. This is why you find, as I told you, just it's not,
come to the front.
In case I have to go out.
so happy to see you and see you smiling. Yeah. So that means it's really understanding first what all is here and what is the relationship between all that is here. It's like you can't deny the presence of wave, you can't deny presence of ocean, and you can't deny presence of water. But what you need to do is figure out the relationship between all three.
Yeah, but you see, like in water, we
Yes.
know that our life started in water, right?
Yes.
Microbe. So maybe, I don't know, maybe the chimpanzee started the consciousness.
Sorry?
Maybe the chimpanzee started the awareness. I don't know.
Okay,
You know,
now let me take another example.
because
Let me-
why there was a, let's assume that awareness is a chip. Just for
See,
my-
then what you're saying is you're making awareness into that form chimpanzee. See, what the whole teaching that I'm showing you is
the
there is a
vastness.
form which is an upadhi, which seems to give its characteristic to the awareness, whereas awareness pervading that form is free from the form. See, I'm showing you that relationship, so you have to use that relationship to understand what is being said. The form cannot exist without that awareness, but the awareness doesn't take on the characteristics of chimpanzee brain. That is the relationship.
It's like if you don't know any relation, sorry, what you have in your understanding, it's just a name and a form.
So once that relationship is known, because we confuse awareness with the mind. That is the nature of confusion. And what we need to do is to distinguish between the two. And when we distinguish between the two, we have to be very careful. Because if Vedanta is not taught properly, you may think that mind is one thing and awareness is something else. So you're constantly trying to separate. And this is why they use the word called detachment.
There is also not conditional awareness.
The word called detachment because they think that Atma has to be what? Detached from the body and
the
mind.
self, yeah.
This has created
Lot of
so much confusion.
So body, mind and intellect, it's a conditional awareness.
It is
Condition.
what we call upadhi. Wonderful. Upadhi is like a form,
Condition.
yeah, that makes the awareness seem like only this. Actually, it is not. So what we then say is, it's not a question of attachment, detachment or anything. It's just a question of understanding the right relationship. What is the relationship? The mind cannot exist without awareness. Awareness is independent of the mind. How do we prove that? And through all these different logics which I used.
Everything is born in awareness.
So that means, when I'm giving you an example, that example has a purpose. It shows something, it demonstrates something. So I'm using your own thought processes and I'm making you do this exercise. Cow thought. The thought is what?
About the cow.
Yeah, about the cow. And then where is awareness in that thought? Without awareness, can you think of a cow? No. So that means that what is the relationship between thought and a cow? Thought is like a
Form.
form. And awareness is equivalent to what? Cane. The cane pervades the table, but it's free from what? From the
Yeah,
characteristics.
it depends on the tree. The tree depends on the water.
No, but here we are talking about the final thing. Only in this relationship. In this relationship of Satya Mithya. The Satya Mithya relationship is like that the thought cannot exist without awareness. But awareness is independent of every thought. That's why when you think of a horse, you are completely able to give up what? Cow. These are demonstrations. Use that demonstration to understand what we are talking about.
But we use this word awareness also sometimes loosely. We always tell somebody when you want their attention, why don't you be aware of this? You have this problem, why don't you be aware of it?
So we use it absolutely. This is one of the reasons, Faith, that people find Vedanta. First of all, it makes you think about things which are so what you're not used to thinking. Secondly is, we use all these words in a completely different manner. And that is, of course, because our whole language is only based on what we know. And here is trying to show us something more than what we know. So we don't have words, because we only operate from what we know. But if I use the unknown words, will it communicate? No. So that means I have to use words which are known to you, but I have to use them in a different way. And when I use them in a different way, I need to define how I'm using that word. Otherwise, this will happen. It's true, because we use it in a different sense.
Exactly.
So this is why it's an intricate. You not only have to follow the logics, you also have to follow the definitions. And you need to understand each part right. And you need to understand the connection of this part with other thing right. That is a long, it requires a very sharp mind.
That's why in the olden days a teacher used to take a student and say, Appu, you can come, you can come.
No, that's true.
You should do that.
You're all approved, you're all so smart. So that means each of these relationships you have to get it right. It is really like the biggest puzzle, which is a very challenging puzzle to solve. And if you solve it, you're the hero. If you solve this puzzle, you understand so clearly that I am limitless. Because by solving this puzzle, your eye has moved from what? This little body and mind to what? The content, which is what? The truth of not only one form, all forms, and also the all intelligence which makes all forms what they are.
You need to drill this in our head.
I'm telling you.
Thank
You
you.
have to, you guys, you have to get it because it's just brilliant. And you
But to get it, you have to understand in the way you believe.
yeah,
Now,
that's
for
true.
instance, if you just say that, I'm sorry to
Yeah, sure.
Ishvara existed
Yes,
before the big, Ishvara existed before Big Bang, but it was a manifested way.
so that means the...
Right? That existed.
See,
And you say that the thought cannot exist without awareness.
okay,
Now, we arrive, the third thing is that the only animal that have thought, at least that we know, are the human being.
yes.
So awareness, when we were ape, did not exist.
No, because as I told you, even while there was ape, there was not maybe my intelligence, but there was what? All intelligence. And this is what I am saying. The awareness is not only truth of my mind, it is also truth of what? That all intelligence.
Yeah.
And that all intelligence was there while the manifest creation is there, before the whole creation
happened.
manifest. That's why that awareness is always there. That's a very, and that awareness which was always there is also here now. That's how the logic is. You got it? I think we got it. Otherwise it's not possible. Otherwise it's not possible. It's true. This is why it is so important to understand Ishvara. In fact, what Roberto said, the only reason that awareness is limitless because it's truth of Ishvara. Because if it was not, it could not be. He's right, absolutely right.
The chip of the human.
Exactly. This is the chip of the puzzle. I don't know if you got what he's saying, but what he's saying is very right.
I can't understand it too well. Sorry, the accent is a little difficult for me. So can you just repeat what you said?
My questioning was, if Ishvara,
Yes, what?
Ishvara existed before the Big Bang, but it was
Ismara.
Ishvara.
Ishvara.
Yes, Ishvara.
exists before Big Bang, but in unmanifested ways. At the same time, she said, thought are not existing with our awareness, and thought, we know that the only animal that thinks is the human animal. So then the question is why existed before? But she says because it's part of this Islam.
Yes.
That makes sense. Also in an unmanifested way before the
Exactly. Way before, exactly. Absolutely.
So the Homo sapiens was a Big Bang for our awareness.
So in fact, what Roberto is saying is, in fact, he's saying something so important that unless you bring Ishvara, your awareness that you are seeing as truth of your mind will become what?
A byproduct of the mind.
Just a very small thing. Even if it is separate from the mind, it will become so small. So he is showing the essential, the part of, yeah, exactly, that how Ishvara becomes the basis because of which you can say awareness is limitless. It is an extremely important point. Extremely important point. Because otherwise what? How long is your mind going to exist? And this awareness, which is the truth of your mind, is very fragile.
In fact, this is how all these people, these scientists speak about consciousness. They say, in a particular configuration and some level of complexity of the brain, wiring and so on, this consciousness will appear. Yeah? But here they are speaking about consciousness, which is this thinking capacity. They are not speaking about this awareness, which is the truth of everything. So it's very ironical, you know, how they make it a byproduct of the mind, where for us it is not the byproduct of the mind. And it has nothing to do with the mind, and it makes the mind what it can do.
Okay.
Right? You got it?
Yeah, he got it, I know he got
Yeah.
it. So that means...
But I can still puzzle why.
Yeah, you still can get puzzled, but he got the
No,
logic.
the Western world is not going to that.
Yeah.
Yes,
True. It's amazing.
it's amazing.
Why aren't we?
You know what, even Roberto, the relationships Indian have with this knowledge, you know, when I say something is told by Bhagavad Gita or it is in the Upanishads, they all think that they are so smart. and they can easily refute. I mean, the attitude with which they listen to it, it's different. When I say that, oh, there was a study at Harvard and there was a study at MIT,
It's very well taken.
then everybody's like, oh my God, what it is, what it is. You see? And we Indians, we have this treasure with us. And in our own valuation, how am I going to convince you if I myself have not a healthy attitude towards it?
That's why in older days, when the teacher used to teach, he will take an interview and then take a student, say, you're going on test, you're not going on. Now there's no test.
But in fact, the whole key to this is we need to be confident about what we are saying. First, we need to understand it right. Then we need to be confident about it. And then, when you begin to show it properly, it is just, this knowledge is a wonder. It is a wonder. But if, unless we know it, then we are so diffident about it. So therefore, that's why it is not available. To answer your question, you have this treasure, but it's not available because we ourselves don't even recognize it as a treasure. We've got to talk of imparting this treasure. And this is why the job,
Imparting it correctly.
absolutely. So that means the job that all of you are doing by talking about it to people, that you people are not small people and you are thinking people and all, and your words count. And that's what he said. It's not that you're doing me a favor or anybody a favor. You're doing what you are indebted to the humanity to carry on this tradition, because this tradition has its intrinsic value. It's not because it's you or it's nothing about you and me.
And I would say it's nothing to do with Indian, so
There's
ultimately.
nothing.
Yeah.
There is nothing Indian about it.
But only we found it in India because we are smart.
Because it's hard to understand people don't want to make that effort.
They don't want to take that effort. Yeah. So I will stop with
Good,
that.
wait, make it sound.
Om Purnamada